Hello, hello. Hopefully you can hear me. And I've had every kind of technical difficulty that you could imagine in the last 15 to 20 minutes. So, welcome to October. Thank you for being here. Thank you for finding this channel and for following this information as we bring it forward. We all do this collaboratively, and we have this great discussion group every Tuesday. So we sort of share, and I realize I'm not just talking to an empty screen, I'm actually reaching through and talking to each of you. Each week. So, thank you for being here. Please like and share and subscribe. So, wow, what a week! What a week! What a week! What a week! Um, Let's start with the solar flares, and then we're going to go towards. I'm going to try to weave together. So there's a lot of things moving right now. I'm going to weave together a perspective that I think will be really helpful for all of us. Okay. So first, in the last 7 days, we've had two solar X class flares on Monday, the 7th. I think one was a 1.02, and then about 2 hours later was a 2.1. So it's just like bam, bam. And that was on the heels of two that had happened the previous week as well. But it went like one before the lunar eclipse, and then two, right? Or excuse me, yeah, the lunar eclipse, and then another X flare on the other side. And we talked about that last week, so you can go back and touch that. And then uh, we had another X class flare on Wednesday the 9th. So 2 days later, we had an X 1.8. And then it's been like this steady M1s through M4s. And surprisingly, yesterday, the highest solar flare was a C 5.7. So this is spaceweather.com. And what it does is it puts the highest level. And so the deep purple ones are the X flares, and the yellow ones are the C's, and the rest are M's. So I track this and bring it to you. And then I will go to Pam Youngins and go like, how many M class flares were there, or what else was going on, right? So I can sort of get a picture and bring it to you. So yeah, huge energies with some major solar flares. But then the bigger part was that after these flares happened on Monday and Tuesday, in between, like this whole week that we've been in has been the residual of the previous flares and these double ones on Monday. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we were seeing some of the most beautiful northern lights and auroras. So if you're on my Facebook page or my Instagram, I posted some pictures of standing right out on my front of my house and taking pictures of the northern lights coming over Big Mountain, the ski resort in north, of here towards Canada. So it was fabulous, right? So the other thing that we had on Wednesday, the 11th, also was that Pluto, let's see, here it is. Pluto, who's been diving down in 29 degrees in Capricorn, stopped and went from retrograde to direct. So that, in some ways, I had a lot of people going like, "Oh my God, Pluto and Capricorn's over," and it's like, yeah, no, this is where the perspective is going to get a little bit more interesting because on October 11th, Pluto stationed and then went direct. So I have a really good way of explaining what it might mean and what's really coming up as we've been doing this huge dive with Mars pushing on it, with the eclipses right in here. So whether you follow astrology or not, doesn't matter. It's going to kind of come together with the flares and what it is what perspectives we can put on it. So the example I'm going to use is being a homeowner and realizing that your sewer is blocked, it's cracked, there's something wrong between the house and the sewage line at the street, right? And if you've ever had this happen, you're kind of like, oh no, this is deep, this is big, this is going to be expensive, right? Because let's just say, because it's sewer, that there are toxins leaking, that there are unseen problems, it's getting in the soil, it's blocking your access, you can't use the toilets the way you want to or run the water in the house. These old systems that came with the house, especially if you have an older house, are breaking down. So if you hold that analogy, it's going to be really fun to walk through this, right? Because what we really did between September 1st, which is when Pluto went into Capricorn and started doing the deep dive, was like there's something wrong with their toilets. There's something wrong with our sinks. But there's it, and we're starting this beginning of the dive, and we've used these cards over and over. This is Scorpio. This is the Scorpio, the Death card in the Thoth deck, and it is also Pluto, right? So Pluto's down at the bottom, digging, trying to release all of these things and find out what the hell's really going on underneath the the dirt in the backyard, whatever, in the front yard, wherever that pipe may be, right? So there's this we've been digging since September 1st and going like, I think it's over here, and then it gets bigger and it gets more massive and it gets more massive, because what we're doing is we're predicting what we think it is. We're knowing like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the pipe, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be in this section where what we've been digging and exploring, and now we're sort of honing in. Now, what it looks like to me is that at this point, you've hit the area where the pipe is broken. That's it. That's it. And you have between now and November 19th to start figuring out how to fix it. What are you going to do about it? Do you want to put a new system in? Since you're already there, what else can you do, right? Because we found the break and we're assessing it. And you're seeing, oh, this is bad piping. Oh, you're seeing, oh, man, when they built these houses, they did a lot of cheap things with supplies, or they didn't work with this joints on the plumbing the way that they should have, and I'm going to go old patriarchal systems of suppression, and how we've balanced, how we've controlled our world, right? And the pretense of maybe, hey, I bought this house 5 years ago, and I'm pretty sure that the people knew that this was going on and they didn't say anything. So we're all of a sudden like, oh, there's so much more here than just a busted pipe. Or there's so much more here as we're digging down and we're finding out all of the old wounds, the old cultural norms, the blockages that have been in place, the suppressions, the ability to sort of take all of our emotional depth and remove it as a cultural value. Um, you know, uh, Greed, self greed, the emphasis on production, on doing. And so, because we are in 29 degrees, right? Capricorn. I'm going to go to Capricorn's an earth sign. It's a cardinal sign, which means it's in leadership in the physical. So in our physical earth world, we are now I've assessed all of this. And so I'm going to show you the Emperor card, because the Emperor is the masculine. I'm going to create a new system. I'm going to flush all this out. I'm going to make it safe. I'm going to protect it. I'm going to contain. I'm going to like figure this out, and I'm going to do it my own way, breaking my own the chains that have restricted me. Like, so who said it had to go this way? What if we do it a different way? What if we put a new system in? So the Emperor is the one who sort of steps in. And all week long, this card, the Four of Earth, which is the Emperor 4 in action, which is, understanding how all of the elements work together, understanding that everything's up and that we're experimenting. And the 4 is also Hesed, which is the left shoulder, and it's the crossway between the abyss and how we come into physical form and start creating something. So when we look at these fours, so this is the 4 in the Thoth deck. This is the 4 in the Lightseers deck, which is, I'm not really sure if I want to share. I'm a little protective. I don't know if I want to spend my money in that town. I don't know what I want to do with that. Or what I love is the way that Osho does this, which is, I have my own things, and I'm going to protect them and close off the outer world as I'm dealing with all of this. So you can see that there's lots of different ways to look at this Emperor in power. And so what I'm going to do is go put these 3, because the Emperor is very much Mars, or Mars energy, which is what we've been talking about. And then we're doing this deep dive, and we're doing it with a sense of power, right? Because we're assessing the physical. We're protecting and building and serving ourselves. We're looking at new ways to activate how we are as we're doing this 29 degrees. So here's where we start all of our building work. Here's where it gets really, really big, and we see and we feel and we understand how we want to create a world. And we're doing this internally as well as externally. It makes sense. This is not just, you're not losing it, you're not crazy. You've got these flares that are activating you and pulling off this debris. You're saying, hey, there's a leak in your front yard. You better go find out about it. And so we're just digging, digging, digging. And now we're in leadership, and we're starting to create. We're starting to put into form the choices that we want to make. Does that all make sense? To me, it's just like fascinating times, okay? Because what we are really doing is we're in this power mode of 29 degrees. And we're looking like, how do I want to steer this forward? I've got the next 6 weeks to start creating a physical reality that works for me. Forget about the elections, forget about P. Diddy, forget about all that other shit that's going on the outside. What do I want for myself? What stays, what leaves, what's been under duress for a long time, and the flares and the storms, and Chiron's been involved too, stirring up these wounds, right? So I'm going to post an article that Stoic wrote on. I'm going to put I think I can put the link here in the comments. If I can't, it's over on my Facebook page, or you can just look up Stoic. I think that his perspective of what we're really doing on the physical, masculine, feminine, energetic time at what we're doing at this time is pretty phenomenal. So I've got 5 tips for you, and I'm going to bring those to you after I do a couple of little plugs. First, the discussion group is at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And this is going to be the last one before I shift over to Patreon. And I put a little explanation underneath. And in Patreon, I'm going to have a couple of different discussion times, because I realize that if you're in the UK, or there are parts of the world where it's just too hard to do 5 p.m., even if you're on the West Coast, right? Mountain Standard Time. So join the discussion group, and then explore Patreon and see what you think about that. And by all means, give me some suggestions if that works for you down in the comments. Second, like, share, and pass this around, because we're building momentum, and we're getting a lot of people talking and feeling into these flares and understanding what they are, what that's about, and what I can do. Because these flares, we still have another year of flares ahead of us. We have this huge astrological event that's been paired with the flares. So as we got close to that October 11th, the flares were just clearing us out with the X after X after X. Third, if you find this information supportive, then buy me a cup of coffee. It's awesome. Buy me a cup of coffee. There's some links down below. You can make a donation, because as always, it's a reciprocation, right? So tips. Number 1, this word came up over and over and over all week long, which is be strategic. Be strategic right now, between now, Wednesday, and November 19th. So through the election, just as you start heading into the American Thanksgiving holiday, be aware of what's going on, what you know now that you didn't know before. Think, like, use the analogy of the open front yard with this sewer issue going on. And now that the external, our culture, that there's been some bad mistakes, there have been some repetitive decisions that just haven't worked. There's been some agendas, and you've been working with suppression. You've been working with old family lineage, belief systems, and patterns. You've been looking at choices you made because you made the very best choices you could at the time you could, knowing with the information that you had. And now you get to be strategic about what you want to create, what you want to build, what you want to transform, what you want to adjust, because there's lots of external ideas and beliefs and distractions going on. Just pull back and focus on yourself. What do I want to do with myself? What do I want to do with these valuable resources? What do I want to do with these changes I want to make? Because this isn't negative. This is like, I want to be discerning and strategic. Okay, so that's the first one. Second one is go beyond the now today. whatever's happening today, you might be exhausted, you might have digestion issues, you might have a lot more heart palpitations this week than you had, right? But think of how long this has been going on, and that some of this stuff is going to have some symptoms when it pulls out. Whether it's you dug the hole and you realized, oh, this is so much worse than I thought, it's so much bigger than I thought, right? Or, if you hold your fist really, really tight for a minute and you just dig your fingernails into your hand, after a while, you can just sit here and you can't feel it. But then when it starts to open up, there's going to be symptoms. Your fingers show where they're stiff, where they're tight, where it wasn't working. This is where we are. So you got to go beyond the now and realize you're repairing ancient lineage from your family up till now. You're transforming and taking a really good look at the choices you made in the jobs, the career, the partners, the family systems. We started this way, now we think we might want to go that way. Or, oh my gosh, every part of me wants to just dig it all back and put the dirt in there and put the for sale sign up and go, great house, see you later. And that isn't going to get us where we want to be. So we have to go beyond the now today and say, what can I do to clean this up and get the flow of all of these systems, all of the feminine flow, the ideas, the vulnerability, everything that we are starting to move again, right? So that, because this is a long game. We've been in this for a long time and we're still in it. And it requires us to focus. It requires us to be able to envision, to plan, to execute action, Mars, to do something with what we're discovering. So it's like, now I have this beautiful chance to fix this yard, repair this house the way I want it, and then start to relax and enjoy it. Number 3, use the flares. Use the flares in the 29 degrees, and then use this full moon on Thursday, the 17th, because it's a huge moon in Aries and it's got Mars just blasting behind it. So it's going to like have some momentum, and it's supposed to be the biggest super moon of the year, even though we've had a couple of other moons that have been quite huge, right? So what we want to do is we want to use the additional information that we're getting, the way that we're feeling, and we want to use this to navigate us forward. So the example I would use is that I went out and took pictures of all the solar flares between 8:30 and about like 9:45. And then I just was exhausted. So I went to bed and I woke up at 10:30 and my whole room was green. And there were these green streams going over the mountain. And so I went out and I stood in them. And I said, just talk to me. And I could feel these pulses coming over the mountain and going overhead, one after the other after the other. So it was just sort of like, let me just use this. I have no idea what these are, but maybe they can support me. And just sort of stood there and said, I hope there's information in there, right? So what we do is we use the energy. We sort of like as if you were to put a spotlight on that big hole and go, did we get all of it? Find out, learn what else might be going on so that you can navigate, right? Number 4, I think this one's huge. And I brought out the King and Queen of Cups from the Osho deck, because what I want to say is number 4 is to focus on your heart. Focus on your heart energy, your heart intelligence, how it vibrates, how it fills the field, right? Because in both the King and Queen, so this is the Queen of Cups, you can see that she's just got all this radiating heart coming up. And then you've got this King who, again, we're going to go to the King, we're going to go to the Emperor, we're going to go to the fours, right? Of how to use this heart energy to set your field, to set your pace, to set your focus, because it's your intelligence, right? And this is where 29 degrees is like that. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of like digging in, but it's where our mastery resides. So what we want to do is we want to find out where the mastery is in our heart, right? And we want to start learning how to use it and to believe in it. And then last, of course, always is to have compassion, because this is a lot. We are under a lot of duress. We're under a lot of challenges, both energetically, from astrologically through the solar flares that just won't stop. We've got daily news that's telling us there's something horribly wrong with the world. We've got hurricanes, we've got we've got arrests, we've got all sorts of things. So just have compassion, because anyone who's had to dig up a front yard or look at a sewer, you don't want to go by and go, fool, or ha ha ha. What you want to do is go, oh, that's a really big job. Oh, and you want to feel it in your heart, and you want to have compassion, compassion for yourself, compassion for anyone you see who's sort of driving erratically or doing something crazy. Just have compassion. So I hope this was helpful. Please pass it around if it was, and put your comments down below, because as you know, I love to hear from you, and I will see you next week. Take care.